Hello guys and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about probably one of the most talked about subjects amongst Pacers fans right now in the offseason, and that is who should we trade? Myles Turner or Sabonis? Some people want to keep both. We're going to look at every side. We're going to look at the Sabonis side. We're going to look at the Myles Turner side. We're going to look at, are those two really the problem? And then finally, at the end, I'm going to get some of my thoughts in. So, well, really, I'm going to get my thoughts in throughout. My final opinions on this is what I'm going to get in. So, let's get into this.
Know the back end, I'm back on the road. Know the protect, paid off my show, dripping this rough.
Okay, Myles Turner. He is the longest tenured Pacer on the team, being drafted in 2015 and staying on the roster until 2020 right now. If he stayed, he'd continue to be the longest tenured Pacer. He also is a big man who can stretch the floor and shoot threes, maybe not the most consistently, but his three-point shooting percentage has gone up throughout his career, at least I believe. He's gotten better at three-point shooting throughout his career and will probably continue to get better because he's showing no signs of slowing down in many areas when progression, with his progression, he's not slowing down. He still has a lot of potential. And he is, of course, the shot blocking king of the NBA, despite what Rudy Gobert stands may tell you. They're just lying to themselves because they're sad that if Rudy Gobert wasn't 7 feet tall, he would be out of a job. Because Myles Turner, he doesn't just get his blocks because he's tall. He actually has skill. It's like Dennis Rodman when he's getting a rebound. Dennis Rodman wasn't getting rebounds because he's tall, because he wasn't that tall. He had skill. He could track the ball. Same thing with Myles Turner. He can track the ball. He can jump. His timing is good. He gets his hands up in the right position. He positions himself good. Perimeter defense. He's very good. Well, maybe not very good, but he's good at perimeter defense. He's good at help defense. He's good at boxing out for others because the way the Pacers scheme works is Myles Turner boxes out for Domas to help Domas get rebounds. So just stuff like that. Let's start off with the Pacers' record without Myles Turner. While Myles Turner was injured, the Pacers' record was 14-20. So that's under 500. And if you look, most of those wins came from teams that were under 500 and missed the playoffs. Most of them, not all of them, just most of them. And Myles Turner seems to be a good locker room guy. Everybody seems to like him, but they also like Domas. Without Myles Turner, that was that game against the Wizards where we gave up I think it was 96 points in the paint. Myles Turner was not playing. Most of those games that he was not playing, teams scored more than usual in the paint. Why? Because Myles Turner wasn't there. Because not only does Myles Turner block shots, but his presence in the paint stops some guys from even driving to the paint because they don't want to get their shot blocked. You have to think about the mental aspect for some players sometimes. So just Myles' presence causes guys to not want to drive. That is what dominance is. And Myles has found his dominance. He's very dominant at shot blocking. Almost averaged 4 blocks a game. I remember at the beginning of the season, for like the first few months of the season, he was averaging more blocks than some teams. Just absolute dominance. And I know you can't sustain that for a whole season, but he was doing it longer than Rudy Gobert did. But, if we did trade him, maybe Goga Bitadze is the same level. Maybe Goga blocks just as many shots. I mean, he's shown that he can get a decent amount of block shots in a short amount of playing time off the bench. And maybe he brings similar scoring because Myles Turner doesn't score that much. And maybe Goga develops a 3. But there's a lot of maybes in there. And if we trade Myles, we're trading a guy who gets a lot of stuff done for our defense and takes a lot of pressure off everybody else. B, likes being in Indiana. And as a fan base, we're always wanting guys that want to be in Indiana. We're always wanting guys that want to take a pay cut to help, our small market team get better players. So we should probably keep guys like that. And C, trading guy that's good for the locker room. Guys like him. He's been here a long time. So some of the other guys that have been here a decent amount of time, like Domas, gives them kind of, some chemistry. So yeah, that's the case for Myles Turner. He's good on defense, very good, so much so that when we don't have him, we lose games to good teams because of it. He, I know his 18 million a year contract. Some people are upset that he's getting paid that much, but think about this: Rudy Gobert is getting paid over $30 million a year. Yeah, to do the same as Myles Turner, only he gets more rebounds, but Domas is the one who covers rebounds anyways. So really, if we were to give Myles equal pay as similar to guys that play similar to him, we'd be paying him what Victor Oladipo wanted last year. So if you ask me, he's underpaid, and if you ask me, he might even take a bigger pay cut because he's unselfish. So yeah, now let's get into the case for Domantas Sabonis.
End of the year, still got problems. Looking in the mirror, you look awful.
And here's the case for Domantas Sabonis. He's unselfish. He is very versatile when it comes to scoring. Maybe not the most consistent three-point shooter, but he has made a drastic jump as far as three-point shooting goes compared to last season and now this season. And it's probably only going to get better. He's also clutch. He can perform in the clutch. And again, another guy that's good for the locker room. Guys like him. He shares the ball, gets everyone points, produces a lot of points, and provides the Pacers the ability to slow down the game. So when we have slower teams that aren't as fast-paced, we actually have a chance to beat them. The Pacers' record without Domantas Sabonis is 5-5. He didn't miss that many games. But again, most of those wins came from teams that are under 500 and teams that didn't make the playoffs. So, take that with what you will. And most of the losses were against teams that we should have beat that were playoff teams, but we couldn't because of injuries. But, Myles, another guy, not Myles, Sabonis, another guy that, likes Indiana. He wants to be here. He will take a pay cut to be here. Again, another example of a guy that only Bam Adebayo might actually be worse than Sabonis when you compare them this year. But Bam, getting paid like $30 million a year. Sabonis, we're paying him 21. So again, another guy that is taking a pay cut when he could ask for more and probably get it from another team, but he's taking a pay cut and he likes Indiana and he wants to win. These are guys that we ask for all the time, and we have them. And if you trade Domas, you're getting rid of an all-star. You're getting rid of a very versatile guy. You're getting rid of someone who could potentially be like Nikola Jokic. You may be wondering why I say that. Well, you compare, because Jokic has played one more season in the NBA than Sabonis. So you compare, I believe it's both their fifth seasons. Yeah. Jokic has played 6, Sabonis has played 5. You compare both of their fifth seasons in the NBA statistically, and Sabonis beats Nikola Jokic in a decent amount of areas. And then Nikola Jokic, took a big leap this year and became the MVP of the NBA. And Nikola Jokic is a guy, maybe not the best defender, but he's a good rebounder. He can pass the ball. He can score. Sabonis shares a lot of those qualities. So while yes, Sabonis' defense may not be there, he's shown that he can improve in every area because he has improved in every area since he came to the Pacers. So he's probably going to continue it because there's really nothing that shows that he's going to stop. So why would you trade a guy that could be the next Nikola Jokic in a year or two? That would be probably a bigger miss than when we traded Kawhi Leonard on draft night. It just doesn't seem like the smart thing to do. It just doesn't. Especially when history tends to repeat itself in sports. Especially when it comes to something that is so close as European produced players. They can be a lot similar in terms of when they hit their primes, when they just blow up, when they fall off. You know, they're very similar because they're all taught a very similar game. That's why a lot of these big men coming over from Europe can pass the ball because they're taught to do that. Arvydas Sabonis, Domantas Sabonis' dad, he did that. He passed the ball a lot for a big man, especially back in the 90s in the NBA, the Portland Trailblazers. He kind of was the first guy that us Americans over in the NBA, saw from Europe. So why trade Sabonis? It just seems like a lot of negatives, especially when you could be having the next Nikola Jokic. So yeah, now on to the next segment, which is personally gonna be interesting for me. Are Domantas Sabonis and Myles Turner together really the problem?
Look, I like my bitches red bone, ass fat.
Are Domantas Sabonis and Myles Turner together really the problem? Here's what I mean by that, which I feel like most people should understand. If we trade Myles Turner and Domantas Sabonis, would we actually get better? Or would we just stay the same, maybe even get worse because we got rid of someone who fills holes? Sabonis fills, moving the ball, rebounding, stuff like that. Myles Turner fills a lot of defense. So, are they the problem? Let's pick out one player, for example, Malcolm Brogdon. Now, Malcolm Brogdon, yes, his percentages on paper look good. But when we came down the stretch of games, or for the entirety of some really important games, against big name teams who we had a chance to beat, Malcolm Brogdon didn't hit his shots, especially from 3-point range. Now, maybe Domas and Myles didn't hit their shots too, but Malcolm Brogdon tried to play hero ball constantly. Got better at the end of the season, but he tried to play hero ball, and it didn't work out. But he still continued to do it. And I get shooters shoot, but sometimes shooters have to figure out when they should stop shooting, because at a certain point, no amount of shooting can get you out of the hole that you've dug yourself, and maybe by the time you do, it's too late and your team's going to lose the game. And that's something that Malcolm Brogdon needs to understand. So he's one of the guys that could have damaged this year. Another thing, Aaron Holiday falling off. It was not good that he fell off. Another thing, all of the frickin' injuries. I mean, if we had TJ Warren, a lot of our 3-point shooting woes would be solved because he's a good 3-point shooter. He's a good scorer. So a lot of these problems that we're having with scoring would be solved. So, and you have to think, how are you going to replace the production of Sabonis? How are you going to replace the rebounding? How are you going to replace the passing? And how are you going to replace the post scoring? Well, can't really think of one guy who covers all of that, and trying to do platooning on a basketball team is a bit difficult. So, and with Myles, how are you going to fill that void on defense that when he wasn't there, we sucked? We really sucked on defense when he wasn't there. We were absolutely terrible, and it cost us games. So, while some people may say that having two big men may cost us some games next year, I think that it might cost us more games without them because of the holes that they fill. And if we don't get the right trade package, which we probably won't, it's going to screw us over and we're not going to do so well next year. So let's get on to my final thoughts. I'm going to decide which one of these I agree with the most.
In your room playing fair.
Okay, so it is a very, very tough decision for the Pacers front office. Historically, when the Pacers front office is faced with a tough decision, they usually don't go through with it, in my experience watching them. Unless a star is demanding a trade, they don't go through with it. Because that could, hurt the team a lot. So, it's tough. You have Myles Turner, a guy who likes being in Indiana, very rare. A guy who could be getting paid a lot more, but isn't. A guy who it's going to be hard to fill his void that leaves behind. And a guy that you probably won't get as much trade value out of as you would like. Then you have, you wouldn't get the trade value out of Myles because teams aren't going to recognize what he did. Domantas Sabonis, how are you going to fill that void? Again, another guy who likes being in Indiana, very rare. Taking a pay cut, could be getting paid more, very rare. How are you going to replace his passing? Maybe Brogdon's assist numbers go up, maybe, but another thing in some of those deciding games, just he tried to take over and it didn't work. How are you going to fill his rebounding void? Maybe Myles gets 10 or more rebounds without Domas, but we would still need at least another good rebounder. So just how are you going to fill that? And no matter what trade package you get for now, if next season he becomes the next Nikola Jokic, whoever we got in return for that trade is probably not as good as he's going to be. So it'd be another huge mistake by the Pacers front office in terms of trading people. So it's tough. And then you look at maybe Myles Turner and Domantas Sabonis aren't the problem. Maybe you have to trade some other people. Like, say a trade package of Malcolm Brogdon, Jeremy Lamb, a first-round pick in 2024 for Damian Lillard. Maybe Portland accepts it. And then we just added a guy who solves the three-point shooting hole. He can pass the ball a little bit. Had to carry hard a team that was worse than the Pacers. I know people are going to say, oh, the Blazers weren't. They made it farther in the playoffs. But you look at their rosters, you look at what they do when they're healthy, the Pacers were better than the Trailblazers when they were healthy. When they have TJ Warren, when they have everybody, they're better. So you add Damian Lillard, get rid of Malcolm Brogdon, get rid of Jeremy Lamb, Malcolm Brogdon, with Damian Lillard, you fill the problems that Malcolm Brogdon had. And Jeremy Lamb didn't really play that much last year. And maybe being on a different team will be good for him. And then you get rid of a first round pick, and if we're good, that first round pick becomes worth nothing. So I feel like maybe that would bring us a better season than trading away Domas or Myles. So I'd have to go with, and I feel like most people who watch my videos normally can predict which one I was going with. I have to go with maybe maybe Myles Turner and Domantas Sabonis aren't the problem. I feel like some people think that I hate on Malcolm Brogdon, and no, when he did good, I gave him credit, and I was happy to do it because I want him to do good, but he just doesn't fit with this team. He just doesn't fit. And I feel like maybe a different team might actually make him, take that next step to be an all-star. And if he does good, we just got Damian Lillard, who is Damian Lillard. So that's my final thoughts. Yeah, I will see you guys next time. As always, I'm not funny, and saw that a former Wizards coach just got hired. I don't know by who, but we're going to see. See you guys next time.
There's the 2-2. Oh, and he went too far.